Hi everyone, welcome to the Digital Supply Chain Podcast. My name is Tom Raftery, and with me on the show today, I have my special guest, Marcell. Marcell, welcome back to the podcast. You've been on the podcast before, but it's been a while. So how have you been and what are you up to?
Hi, Tom, and hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure being back here. And yeah, indeed, it has been a while, but you see all what's happened in between. So we had a pandemic, we have war in Europe in the meantime. So there's a lot happening also right now. But great being back here, and thanks for having me.
And give a quick introduction, Marcell, for people who may not have come across you before. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Marcell Vollmer, and I'm currently CEO at a private equity-owned group in the healthcare procurement business. Before that, I was 15 years at DHL and 14 years at SAP, the longest time. And that's, by the way, also where the gray hair comes from. I was also a chief procurement officer at SAP, looked really into everything related to what SAP is purchasing. Moving on, also integrating some acquisitions like Ariba, Fieldglass, Concur. I did this before on the DHL side, as well as when SAP really started with business objects and Sybase. I was the integration lead. And I moved on then as chief operating officer after my own as CPO, integrating the acquired companies in the cloud business group, as well as also then helping clients to define their IT strategy in the best way by becoming a chief digital officer, which was really great. And a fantastic opportunity to progress my career. I decided to leave in 2019 SAP to join a startup, Celonis, market leader for process analytics, process mining, and continued as partner and director at BCG previous to my current role. And my focus was all the time basically looking into the reorganization, restructuring, leading in-house consulting organizations, as well as also helping clients with a special focus on procurement supply chain.
Okay. And, as you mentioned, since you have been on there, we've had some interesting times between pandemics and wars in Europe and these kind of things. In your mind, how have they impacted supply chains?
I think it was really, by the way, just one single ship, the Ever Given, the ship which got stuck in the Suez Canal, can bring the global trade between Europe and Asia to a standstill. It continued in the pandemic when Shanghai was closed, and by that also a significant impact on global supply chains. And now, since more than 1 year, we have a war here in Europe, the Ukraine-Russian war. And by that also we learned, we have huge impact on energy cost, impacting now our production processes, manufacturing. On the other side, also, we learned a lot about logistics, what is needed and how we can also become more resilient. Because if we are so fragile on the supply chain side, basically we are very much dependent also on a small number of suppliers. And if they are in a different place in the world, like in Asia, then it can be tough when one harbor, Shanghai, gets closed, and by that you are no longer getting your supplies. And of course, you have customers, you need to continue your business, you need to run your operations, and therefore this also opened a little bit the eyes about what we need to do on risk management. It opened the eyes also on how we basically need to define our supply base. I will not say, by the way, that globalization is definitely not. Out of the 100 trillion what we have as global GDP, that's roughly the number last year, and about 20% is global trade, what we have. And I'm very confident, and also the latest studies I have seen, BCG, for example, confirming that global trade will continue to go. But we will also see on the other side, there will be a shift a little bit, looking into how to regionalize, how to have also many suppliers or a dual supplier strategy, at least to ensure that the dependency is not too high in the case of a crisis, which can happen every time. We know the Black Swan event, so we have seen what this means. And basically by that, we really need to become more resilient and need to be a little bit more diverse also on the structure, how we set up our supply chains in the future. That's what I have learned, what I see also what clients are doing when I talk to them. Yeah.
Moving very much from having been supply chains where it's kind of linear into supply webs. I want to think where it's more of an ecosystem of suppliers rather than individual suppliers in individual places.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more on your assessment, and basically that's also what drives a lot of discussions right now on supply chain management as well as procurement logistics on how to really define this and how to really prepare best for the future. A recent study from CEOs is confirming that basically now the two priorities are, which is not a big surprise. It's number one is growth. Number two is also the margin, the profit, what a company needs to do. And basically both is impacting directly supply chain procurement.
Yeah. In terms of future trends, I mean, what implications do you see this having for supply chains as we move forward?
So I definitely see on the one side that the digitalization is still continuing and more investments in technology are on its way. Of course, we could now use all the buzzwords with AI, machine learning, ChatGPT, and so on. When you look at supply chain management, I think it is absolutely important that you have real-time data and real-time information about where are your products and what is currently happening with all the logistics, the inbound logistics, what you get from your suppliers, as well as outbound, what you deliver to your customers. You need to master the data, and you definitely need to have full transparency on that. By that, we see that 5G technology, RFID, automated warehouse solutions, all of that is definitely and currently an investment area, what I see right now. But there's much more. I mentioned the risk management, the resilience, what is important. By the way, it's directly linked on the one side also to the data. On the other side, it is also to think or rethink about the strategy. How do you really want to do your category management? Who are the suppliers you want to do business with? On the one side, of course, it's a cost side, which is key, but there's another element, and I would like to add this to risk management as number 3, which is sustainability. We see that CO2 is becoming a price, and by that also you need to think about what is it exactly what it costs you by considering that the CO2 price will increase in the future. And this is also another aspect by rethinking a little bit the approach on how to best define your supply base and looking into the risk management, looking into the real-time data, what you need, but also looking into the CO2 footprint. And the reason for that is pretty simple. It is on the one side regulations, so you need to stick to that. Supply Chain Act is one example, but there are much more regulations currently on its way or already mandatory in Europe, and by that also they have a certain global implication. On the other side, and I think that's equally important, is that the customers are asking more and more to get information about what is really the CO2 footprint, what is really the sustainability, what you as a company drive to ensure that you also take care of the planet. I'm a strong believer that there's only one planet and we need to take care of it. And by that also we need to look into the way how we use the resources and to ensure that the overshoot day, we all know basically the resources we are taking from Earth compared to what Earth is creating or producing within a year, that we really balance this by also considering that a lot of countries are not as developed as the first world countries. And by that, there's also a certain development need, and it is really a challenge to balance all of that. I don't want to go too much into politics, but basically also in supply chain, you simply need to include this in your strategic thinking and the way how you want to define it. So digitalization, the risk management, resilience, and sustainability are the top 3 priorities what I see right now, and happy to discuss this with you. Tom, what's your perspective on that? If I may turn it around and ask you a question on that.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting that you asked because I gave a keynote recently on the 5 major trends in supply chain. And one of the things that I specifically left out as a trend was digitization. And I left it out Not because I don't think it's important, but because I think it is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. So I had 5 trends listed, but digitization was part of each of those 5. It didn't need to be its own point, because every one of the other points required companies to digitize so that they could be part of it. AI was one of them, for example, but you need to have digitized to be able to, roll out AI or take advantage of AI. Another one was climate and sustainability. Same thing. You cannot be reporting your emissions or measuring your emissions unless you have digitized your processes in order to allow you to enable to do that. It was an interesting exercise, because it, almost all the decks you see looking and talking about the future of supply chain specifically say digitization, but I say that's a given at this point. And, because it's part of everything else. And no, go on.
I have a little bit to laugh right now, because I'm working in healthcare industry, and of course you are a futurist, and I couldn't agree more on what you're saying, that let's no longer talk about digitalization. It needs to be part of everything what we are doing. So I couldn't agree more on the overall statement. I got grounded by joining the healthcare industry, by really learning a lot about how hospitals, for example, now the relationship with suppliers. And I can tell you, the telefax machine, so the thing from an Enlight or Generation Z, this is where you write paper, something on it, and basically there's a machine making a picture out of that and transferring this to another place. It's not a picture with an iPhone. It's a much different technology going via a landline on a phone. This is really a standard way in processing purchase orders. And when you think about that, so I would love to follow your vision and your visionary approach about, hey, digitalization, everything needs to be now really part of your DNA. I couldn't agree more. There's the need, and this will be the future. But on the other side, when you're really realistic, and there's lots of industries, what I learned also in my role as partner director at BCG, when I had a chance to talk to hundreds of clients. Not everyone is already on that level. Still have a need now transitioning their ERP systems, introducing certain technologies, and by the way, also building all the interfaces and aligning the different technologies, and really bring this in one way for the company in a setup that they really can operate it, and hopefully also that it generates value at the end. So just to add this, and sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, Tom.
No, it's fine. Just giving me a reality check. That's good. Much appreciated. Not everyone is as far ahead as I am in my thinking. So fine.
Couldn't agree more.
In terms of the climate and sustainability, I did say as well that obviously you need to have digital processes to measure and report your carbon footprint. As well, though, you need to be able to look at the carbon footprint of your suppliers, because, and we talked about this in the prep for this call, it's the majority of your emissions aren't from your own processes, but they're from your suppliers. Anywhere from, depending on the industry, anywhere from 50 to 90% of your carbon footprint typically comes from your supply chain. So, we're going to start to see a world where people are interrogating their suppliers and saying, what's the carbon footprint implications for me of using your service or purchasing your products or whatever it might be? And so this is going to become ubiquitous, as you rightly said, down to regulations, down to customer demands, but particularly regulations. I mean, we have lots of regulations now coming out about the requirements to report carbon footprints. And you're going to start to see a lot of organizations mandated from their suppliers, and a lot of purchase decisions made not just on the financial implications of the purchase, but also the CO2 implications. And even the two are now combined, because, as you rightly said, there's a tax, or there's a price now on carbon, which is going up. It had been, pretty low and pretty flat for a long time, but in the last 2-3 years, it started to really increase, which is I think is a good thing. People are starting to finally pay for the pollution that it causes. The other thing that's happening here in Europe is the rollout of the carbon border adjustment mechanism. the
Yes.
carbon border tax, as it's colloquially known. And that means that, goods that are coming into Europe from outside, if they don't have a carbon price on them, will have a carbon price put on them before they come into Europe to kind of level the playing field for European companies who have to pay that carbon price, so that they're not on an uneven playing field with people from, or with companies who are operating outside of Europe. So that's going to be a big one as well for organizations to watch out for. And it means I think it's fair for, particularly for European companies, that this happens, and also that money is ring fenced and goes into sustainability projects.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Tom. That's really, really insightful, and definitely also requires a lot of data what you need to get from your suppliers. You mentioned the carbon footprint. How do you really get the data? It's not only the logistics, where your goods come from, it's also the suppliers of your suppliers and their suppliers, what goes into the product, and where does the raw material come from, where is the production taking place. And that's really something also where you need to define ways. How do you really measure that? How do you really ensure that you have at the end a fair calculation about what is now the CO2, what is in your products, and also when you want to define measures to reduce your CO2 footprint, what is exactly what you can attack, and also how can you really prove that this is something where you create impact and hopefully reduce the emissions what you create by your production, as well as including your distribution, your logistics.
Yeah. There's a lot of hype as well, Marcell, at the moment around AI. Is that breaking into the healthcare sector as well, or not yet? Are you still using faxes or the equivalent for AI?
Well, I think we need to be fair on the healthcare side, and everything stays what I said about the purchasing process, the connect with supply chain. And yes, the fax machines are still a reality right now. On the other side, and that's a good thing, because we are all human beings and we might need help from doctor at a certain point in time, hopefully not, but when we get it, we definitely want to ensure that the latest technology is used. And by that, it is also great seeing that the advancement of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics is really very far already. Breast cancer probably is, or the recognition of breast cancer is probably one of the best examples where machine learning algorithm can do this in a better way than a doctor can do it, based on the millions of examples what the machines have access to, getting the pictures and really being very certain identifying. And of course, it is only to support basically what the doctor does. It is not to replace the doctor, it's to augment. So therefore, I like more the term also bionic, to integrate the technology side, the machines, with us as humans. And of course, a doctor is a great example because there are so many data points what you simply can't analyze by yourself anymore. And therefore, artificial intelligence, I think, is very much in use in the healthcare industry. Another great example is also Da Vinci. This is robotics, what you can use for an intervention. So basically, during a surgery, and the expert on that, the professional with most experience, could be on the other side of the world and do an intervention in an OR on the other side by basically using the machine and the robotics he has access to. And this is another great example where we see what the technology can do. There's much more when you go for medical trials and really the pharmaceutical products. By the way, the COVID vaccination is a great example also how fast technology can really help us to get a vaccination. I think it is absolutely record time what happened. So basically about 1 year after the outbreak of COVID that we had access to vaccination. I would never have expected that. BioNTech, by the way, one of the German companies, is very far in that. Pfizer, they globally distributed it, but there are more companies out there. But great example also how to use the technology and how we as people can benefit from that. So that's the good news. We have the technology side on the one side. On the other side, I think for the internal processes, there's still a catch up what needs to be done and hopefully will be done in the near future, that fax machines are no longer needed.
Yeah. Good. And I mean, we're seeing a lot as well in the kind of autonomy space, autonomous vehicles, not so much on highways, but for example, in the likes of ports, in places where, and in mines as well, places where you've bounded geographies where it's easy for autonomous vehicles to get around. In warehouses is another place where you have little autonomous robots going around. And I saw a fascinating one where there are drones being used for deliveries in, I want to think it was Rwanda. There's a company called Zipline, and they are doing drone deliveries. They have 2 bases in Rwanda, and they're doing deliveries of medical equipment and supplies to remote hospitals all over the country. And the 2 bases they have, they're able to cover the entire country with the drones. And the drones are fully autonomous, and they take off about 1 every minute or 1 every 90 seconds. And they're flying and dropping deliveries to all these different hospitals throughout the country. It's absolutely fascinating. And there's a great video about it on YouTube. Zipline is the name of the company. That's a special use case, but the same company are now looking at using similar type drones for delivering goods in more industrialized countries. Like, I mean, you're in Germany, I'm in Spain, the US, places like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if that becomes a reality. There's obviously challenges to making deliveries with drones, but they've already proven their use case in Rwanda with the medical supplies to hospitals. So that's something that could very well be something coming down the line as well, no?
Absolutely. And I think drones are a great example, and Africa probably is also a great place where we have seen, by the way, lots of innovations. The mobile business, for example, Africa skipped the computers and went right away to mobile. And I think when you look on the density in lots of rural areas in Africa, drones might be a great way also in providing everything what is needed in short time. I think we see lots of examples already, and you mentioned warehouses. By the way, even hospitals have autonomous cars to provide the supply between the warehouse and the ORs. That's something under the ground, what you see very often, containers basically going from the warehouse to the OR and the other way around, which is already helping, and definitely there's no other traffic. People can walk by there, but basically they clearly ask to stay on the side in a marked area, so not to interfere with the autonomous vehicles. And that's probably also a great way where we will see the drones on the one side, what you mentioned with Rwanda, autonomous cars underground without any traffic, where you really can see the benefits using the technology, and also where you don't have the complexity right away. What happens when you now combine autonomous vehicles, for example, with human drivers, and we all know not everyone is always rational, and of course not every machine can identify everything exactly at this point in time, even after millions of kilometers. And it's kind of funny seeing the Google cars in California driving around, or in Pittsburgh, where you have also Uber testing. Arizona is another place, Phoenix, where you see that the autonomous vehicles are already tested. I think that's definitely great use cases, and we will see much more of that to really help us also to ensure that the supplies needed get everywhere where they are needed in time. And, I look forward to that. I'm not sure if drones will become a reality in crowded cities like New York, or even here, I'm in Frankfurt, Germany right now. I doubt a little bit that we will see all the drone traffic here to do this, but definitely we need to have different ways by also not getting every package delivered separately. Sometimes I get 3 packages a day, which doesn't make any sense, and on the logistics side is definitely not the most sustainable way in doing it either.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, we're alluding to it and dancing around it, but another trend we're seeing as well is the whole electrification of transportation, because all these drones, they're electric. A lot of the little robots that are going around in factories and hospitals, they're electric as well. They're not using internal combustion engines. So the whole shift to the electrification of transportation, it hits on climate and sustainability, and it hits on it hits mostly on climate and sustainability, I guess, but it's a big trend as well. We're starting to see it's happening in road transport. It's here in most rail. It's starting to happen in aviation, and it's going to happen. It's happening in some shipping as well, but long term, it's going to happen in shipping as well. So almost all transportation is going to shift to electric, and long haul trucks as well is another one with the launch of the Tesla Semi. MAN have a couple of them. Volvo have a couple of electric trucks as well. So, and that's for long haul, but also for local deliveries as well. We're going to start to see almost all haulage go to electrification and or electric, and that's going to make a huge difference in terms of A, air quality, B, noise pollution, and C, reduction in climate emissions. So all good news there, I think.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more, because at the end we are running out of oil in the future, and therefore how to best replace it. I think electric vehicles are a great way of doing that, and hopefully also using renewables energies in the future to ensure that we really can use sunlight, solar, wind power, water, geothermic, whatever. Probably also fusion might become a reality. So we will see. And we definitely need to prepare the world for change, and supply chain will be heavily impacted by that, because, as I mentioned, globalization will not come to a stop. I think it makes definitely sense also to distribute manufacturing and ensure that we are very well connected. Even, we have some challenges. We see trade wars from time to time coming, but at the end, we need also to think about what is really the best way of connecting all the different countries. And electric vehicles are definitely one way to do it, to ensure that we reduce the emissions and also prepare ourselves for the time after oil.
Yeah. We're coming towards the end of the podcast now, Marcell. Is there any question I haven't asked that you wish I had, or any topic we've not touched on that you think it's important for our people to be aware of?
Oh, Tom, it's so great talking with you, and I think we could definitely go for much more topics now. We didn't touch blockchain, for example. What will the future be on that? Things like that. But I think we should leave it at this point in time, and probably we have a chance in the future to connect. I definitely love talking with you, and hopefully have a chance also to go a little bit deeper on the one or the other element within supply chain sustainability, because we both have the same passion for these topics. And thanks really for having me in this for this podcast. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Marcell. And if people would like to know more about yourself or any of the topics we touched on today, where would you have me direct them?
So best is to reach out on LinkedIn, Marcell Vollmer, as well as on my Twitter handle, mvollmer1. That's my Twitter handle. And looking forward also staying in touch with you, and feel free to follow me. And as much as I can, I definitely also comment and respond to any queries what I get. I definitely love connecting with people and also exchanging some thoughts, because this is at the end what makes us stronger, and where we also can ensure that we get new ideas from.
Fantastic. Great. Marcell, that's been amazing. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
You're very welcome, Tom. It was a great pleasure as always.